Hi boys and girls, today I'm going to show you how to replace the water pump on a Ford Transit, the trusty book. This should cover vehicles from 2000 to 2010, so I'm led to believe. It's the Duratorque 2.4 litre turbo diesel. I couldn't see anything on YouTube about this particular engine on how to do the water pump, so in order to give something back to the YouTube community, I'm going to have a go at it now. Let's get started. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is disconnect the negative terminal on the battery. That's done with a 10mm socket. Slide the seat forward. Just lift the flap. Undo the 10mm nut on top. In there. And take off the terminal, push it away so it doesn't retouch. So everything's safe now. That in there. Okay. Next thing we've got to do is drain the cooling system. So typical Ford makes it hard to open the bonnet if you're not sure. You've got to push forward, push down on the bonnet, push forward on the key, rotate it to the left, push forward, rotate it to the right, hold it open like that. Now we're going to go under the vehicle, so I'll get my trusty dooner. Just don't let your wife see you using the dooner. Okay, you need a drain pan. You don't want this stuff going into the drainage system at all. It's pretty noxious stuff, so you want to capture it, put it into bottles and dispose of it correctly. Please don't chuck it in the drain, because it'll go in the ocean. Okay, first thing to drain the system is you undo that. Preferably the vehicle is cold, not hot. If it's hot, that's going to spurt hot stuff around the place and probably burn you. So wait till the engine's cold. That's just to release the pressure. There's a drain plug down in there, which is in typical Ford fashion is very difficult to get to. It's got a giant cross, like a giant Phillips head, which you need a very wide screwdriver to get into, or something like that, or maybe a gasket scraper or something. You can release the lower pipe, but it's another join that may leak later on once you've broken that seal, so I prefer to actually use the drain plug. Okay, so the drain plug is this thing here, just below the lower radiator hose there. You can see it, hopefully you can see it clearly enough there. Yeah, giant hex thing that you got to get something in there to unscrew. It doesn't screw all the way out, by the way, so don't try to unscrew it all the way out. It doesn't come out, it just comes out enough to leak the water out. So there it is there, unscrewing like that. It's on the left hand side, I should have mentioned before, so you'll see it if you look up underneath on the left hand side of the radiator. Unscrew it all the way out, preferably not with your body underneath it. Put a drain plug underneath it, drain pan underneath it. So that's the water running out into the pan. Quite a reasonable flow. Okay, so the system's now empty, it's been drained. Just leave the plug loose for the time being. Next thing you need is a T30 Torx bit, which you can get super cheap or wherever. You got to undo the Torx bolt that's there. There's one there and there's one here. This just takes off the plastic guide here, which you've unplugged your cables from the top there. Just once you've unscrewed them, you take it off. I've already unscrewed it, so that's it off there. That side, don't tread on it. So coming around here, it's very jammed up in there, so you might want to turn the light on. Okay. on top of the water pump, which is this one down here, you can see there's the belt driver there. On top of it is a what's called an EGR vacuum pump. That actually has to come off the water pump before you can replace the water pump. In order to do that, we need to start off by taking the belt off, which we'll do now. How we do that is there's a tensioner on the other side here. This guy here's a belt tensioner. We need to basically press down on that to take the slack off the belt, and then we can slip it off this smooth one here at the top, this guide one here. So once we've taken the tension off, we can just slip this guy off and then take it off the belt. There are diagrams online on how to, or in the book, how to put the belt back on again in correct sequence, so you need to take note of that. If you're not sure, if you haven't got access to that, take a photo of it with your phone or whatever beforehand, so that you know how it's going to go back on. Okay, so we're pushing down on the tensioner, the spring pressure, with all your weight, and you just back here in the guide here, you just slip it off like that, and it's away here. So now you can take off the belt there, take off the belt there, and it's free. In the book they talk about keeping the direction of the belt the same way, but that's not relevant if you're not actually taking it off. You're just removing it like that. You're not actually removing it from the vehicle. If you do take the belt out, you've got to make sure you put it back on with the same direction face, not the other way around, if you know what I mean. Cool. Now we've got to start taking off all these hoses that seem to be doing something, but there's lots of them. So we start off with this big one back here. Alright, so this hose here, the big one, is actually a screw type. Most of the others are those horrible spring type ones, which once you've got them off you might want to replace them with the screw type, because they're really hard to get on and off. So let's get that away, get it out the way, because everything wants to be in the way. It doesn't say in the book to take off this one, but I do anyway, because it's in the way. Then you progress to the next one. So there's a whole heap at the back, which we've got to get pliers onto the spring clips to get them off as well. So I'll begin doing that. Now I've tried various different ply types, you know, the alligator clip ones and all that for this. The best one I've found is just a wide opening pair of snub nose pliers. Got these ones from J-Car. So you just spring them together like that. See how nice and easily they come off. Everything else just gives you nightmares. So slide it off, get it out the way, and then if they're tight, just break the seal, pull it off like that. Bit of fluid in there. That's that one. Then we've got to get to this one. Okay, so we clipped it down there. I had to use that type for this one because it needed the angle to get up underneath, but I do hate this type. Oh, there we go. It's off. Get this big one here. Again, it's screw tight. Okay, that's almost off. Okay, so you got to slide it off that bevel bit at the front of the water pump inlet. There we go. and you twist it to break the seal, or pry it with a carefully with a screwdriver just to break the seal. It should just come off. There we go. Off. So bend it out the way. We've got 1, 2, 3 more to do. Actually, it's 4 more to do. That one there. There we go. It's off. And we've got, don't know if you can see this stuff because it's pretty far down there. Once you look and see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. You handy to get a hand behind it too to push the other side of the clip down as you're going, but it's so jammed up it's almost impossible to get in there. Just keep slipping off. There we go. Off she goes. Persistence. Okay, that's off. That leaves this one at the back. I'll get him out the way again. This one down the back here. Having strong hands helps. Because you can buy actual proper clip removing pliers from, you know, auto stores and stuff. So which obviously sometimes I wish I had. There we go, off. I doubt I saw anything at any of that. At this point, we'll remove the EGR pump, vacuum pump. So there is a brass bolt at the back of here where the book says, oh, you know, remove that. What they don't tell you is inside there's 3 items that fall out and you can lose them really easy. So if you undo that, there's a ball bearing, which is like a green translucent thing, a spring, and a little plastic thing that sits down in there, and the spring pushes the ball bearing into the cup of that, which is obviously a one-way valve. When I unscrewed it, they all fell out and didn't. I couldn't find the spring, so I had to make another one. Because you can't buy the spring at Ford, you have to buy the whole pump, which is about $700. So yeah, it'll end up being a $700 spring if you lose it. I'm not going to take this off. I'm just going to take the pump off itself and just have the cord hanging down without removing that because it's not necessary just for this water pump exercise. So yeah, up to you. I'll get screwing on these guys. They're 10 mils as well. There's 3 of them. Start off with 1. 2, 3. Once you turn them, like, you know, half a turn, they're sort of loose anyway, so you can get them out without the ratchet handle. When you buy your new water pump, they make sure you get the gasket that goes between this and the water pump because they're a little bit special. They've got O-rings in them as well, depending on what water pump you get. I got one online for $220, and you have to make sure that it comes with the 2 rubber O-rings and the metal gasket that's on top. Otherwise they leak. If you get them from Ford, I don't know, they're about $701 they are, to be specific. The one I got from online was a Ford manufactured one from Turkey, so that's apparently where they made anyway, and it's got Ford stamped on it. Right, so these are the 3 bolts. One of them's got this Duvalaki on top. That's just to hold one of the harnesses in place, which I'll show you later. So that's the thing that thing clips into there. So once you've got this bolt in, you clip that on just to hold the harness. Okay. Right. Okay. So once those are out, you just give it a little wiggle, and as you see, it comes off really, really easily. Now I'm just going to put this guy up here out the way. As I said, you can remove. You can remove that nut there, but it's unnecessary for this. Right, so we just put him up there, out the way. There's the gasket that's on top. You can see the gasket there. This one I got from Ford. It was about 40 bucks. And there's an O-ring which they've made an addition. Oh, there it is, squashed out there. So that's the O-ring that they've made an addition. That's 10 bucks for a little rubber O-ring. God bless you, Ford. You can see it squashed. When it comes, it looks like a normal O-ring. And then you screw it down and it squashes it out to seal. The water pump that I got has come with a new gasket for this join, so we don't need to worry about this one. Okay, so now it's time to unscrew the water pump itself. Okay, at this point I should point out that this hose here I took off up here. Remember this one? I did leave it on down the bottom there because once you take the pump out you can actually get to it, and there's no need to actually remove it from the vehicle until the pump's out. You can actually put it on to the new pump, and then when it goes in you only have to get to the spring up here, which is much easier than having to try and fight your way down there. Okay? Okay, let's start taking these bolts out now for the water pump. Okay. Oh yeah, how many was it? 4? I think it was 4. Starting with this one up top. One. 2. You feel your way around this one below that. 3. And there's another one to the front of the vehicle. There. 4. So once they're loose again, you can just... You don't need the actual socket, you can just unscrew them like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there you see the pump just comes away very easily. They're not stuck or anything like that. It's not stuck like the old, it's a metal gasket you see, so there's no the old gaskets that used to stick them on like glue. Now you're supposed to replace that gasket with a new one, and again Ford charges quite a bit for them, but you don't really have a choice unless the new water pump comes with them, which some of them do online I've seen. Okay, so that's the top one. They're all the same except for the top one as far as length is concerned. The top one's a longer one. Okay, and there it is. It comes away like that. So at this point, you can see the gasket there. We want to hang on to that, not let it fall away down there. There's the gasket made of metal. And now the water pump should just lift straight out. Let's get all the hoses and stuff out. There we go. One removed water pump. Now this one I suspect, and I can actually see the tracking, the seal inside there has ruptured somehow, or leaking, and that's the outlet hole there, which is the sign that, you know, because you feel around, you can see it's wet and there's water dripping out, but you can't really see where it's coming from. Well, it's most likely that if it's the water pump that needs replacing. So this is that hose I was talking about a second ago. When it's out like this, it's a piece of cake compared to being jammed up inside there. So we just take that off and we can put it straight onto the new water pump. This guy can go to the bin or recycle yard or whatever you want to do. Alright, so we want to clean up these surfaces pretty well because they're you know, metal gasket. There's no need for any scraping or sanding or anything like that to get the old gasket off. It's just the oils and any build up that you want around it that you want to get off. So with a fairly clean rag, the old Bonds t-shirts are perfect for that, nice and absorbent. Just clean it up a bit. That looks alright to me. Okay, one brand new water pump. As you can see, forward, it's a forward one. That's the hole that I was telling you about before with the old one. Hopefully nothing comes out of that. Okay, so this is the new pump, and I've put the hose back on as I described before. So now we're ready to slide it back in, and hopefully all going well, you should be able to bolt it straight back on. Yeah, so she's going back in. You've got to get all the hoses out the way so they don't interfere too much. I've got dowels to seat the pump where it's supposed to go. You can find them if I can find them. There we go. Now I just need to get one bolt in there to hold it. But the long one, don't forget, goes up the top here to the front. Okay, give it a little wiggle to make sure it's seated nicely, feels good. Bolt 2, bolt 3, bolt 4. You can screw them in most of the way by fingers and make sure they're not cross-threaded. So they should screw like 90% of the way in just by your fingers. So just with a normal ratchet, just bite them in, bed them in. Don't go too nuts. Just bed them in so it's firm. Okay. So we've actually got a torsion wrench which we'll use for the final tightening to get it to the specified tightness, which I'll go and grab now. Right, so I've got my torsion wrench. I'm tightening it. Waiting for the click. There we go. Click. Click. Okay. Right, so now we're ready to move on to the EGR pump. I might put a couple of these hoses back on again while that thing's away because it gives me a little bit better access. We'll start off with this little bastard up here. Okay. I probably won't waste film doing this, but you know what I'm doing. They're all around here. I'll just put them on and then I'll come back. Okay, you know what to do. All right, so I've connected all the hoses at the back there. They're all readjusted and fitted. Hopefully you know how to do that. You've taken them off, so you should remember how to put them back on again. A bit of leakage there I want to get rid of. So now we're going to put the EGR pump, vacuum pump, back on again. Stick a rag in there to stop it from dripping. Okay, so these are the O-rings that they send us separately with the new water pump. So they go in those little grooves that are actually on that surface. This is the new metal gasket, which drops in there like that. And we retrieve the pump from up here. Careful, careful, careful. Oh, I just might give that a clean. Right, so I've cleaned the surface of the vacuum pump. Feed him down in here. Again, there's dowels to seat it. I feel comfortable with that. This one with the weird little thing sticking up, he goes into that one. You just feed it down by hand as much as you can. And again, there's three bolts in these ones. So we'll just get the spanner and just fit it down. Again, just don't go nuts, just tighten it down so it bites, like it feels like it's biting in on the new gasket. I didn't mention it before, but the bolts that are holding the water pump on are tightened to 22 Newton meters. Alright, so these bolts are 20 Newton meters each. There it is. There it is. And there it is. All tightened up. Lovely. Alright, well now we can fit off the rest of the hoses, which is this guy up here and this big guy down here. I'll do that now and I'll be back. Alright, so I put the top hose on, I put the bigger hose on. Now this thing here, you would have clipped this off when you originally, I didn't show it, but this thing comes off this and that pushes back on again just to hold this fella in place nice and secure. Right, belt time. Let's put the belt back on. Right, so we've made sure they're all on the spools all the way around and the belt's grooved. Again, you've got to put your weight onto that spring-loaded there. Get them onto these over this side, which just leaves this one here again, the smooth one. So you put your weight on the belt, push down on this spring, so you get it. And this is where you need a bit of strength. There we go. Feed it on. It's a smooth surface, so it feeds straight back on. There we go. So then you check all the way around here, make sure they're all seated in their groove properly, which this bottom one is not. It's too far off the edge, so we've got to push down again and push it over. There we go. It should be. This is double checking. Yeah, still not on properly on this side here. See, it's on the edge. It'll probably feed itself on, but I just want to make sure. Okay, that's got it in now. So all the grooves are in their respective places. And the belt's on properly all the way around. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Right. Okay, it's time to go back under the vehicle and tighten that drain plug back up again, which I'll do now. Okay, so you can see the screwdriver in the groove there properly, and you just screw it back in again. Ideally, I'd have a bigger head screwdriver than this, but it seems to do the job, sort of. Just get us tight as you can without damaging that stupid plastic thing that they've chosen. There we go. That should be fine. If you've got a bigger head thing, then use it. I wish I did. I don't have one here right now, but it seems pretty tight. And if you see water pouring out the bottom, you know you haven't tightened it up enough. Alright, I'm going to just fill this vehicle up with just normal water now to check that it's all watertight, and we'll drive it around for a while like that before I actually put the coolant in, which is the red type, by the way, the red coolant, which you can get from super cheap for about $70 for a big tub. Be careful of the there's the concentrate, and then there's the pre-mixed stuff. The concentrate's the stuff you want, because you need 10 litres to fill this guy up. Okay, so here you fill it up. Once it's all sealed, double check, make sure all your hoses are on, you haven't forgotten any. Then we just start filling it up from here. As I said, I'm just going to fill this up with just normal water and run it for a while under pressure to see if there's any leaks. Once I'm satisfied with that, I'll release all that out, flush all that out, and replace it with the extra coolant. Okay, so we just filled it up to the max line there. Come around this side. You can see the max line there, so you just want to fill it up to there. It's also a good reference. You don't go over it too much, because it's also a good reference that if it is leaking out while you're driving, you'll be able to actually remember where you filled it to, and it'll show where it is. It's cast slightly on an angle, so it'll probably shows a bit fuller than it is, but that's enough certainly for testing processes anyway. Okay. Alright, so we're back in the battery compartment, so now it's time to put this fella back on again. You probably didn't get a decent view of this when we were taking it off, but it's really straightforward. Just wiggle it down nice and tight. 10mm socket, same one, same size that we've been using the whole time for the EGR vacuum pump and the water pump. They're both 10mm. We just give it a little nudge, not too tight. I'm always a bit heavy-handed, as my father always said, tighten it up till it strips and then back it off half a turn. But in this instance, it's nice and tight, so we want it to be like that. Alright, so that's the battery back on again. So we're about ready to start her up, and just after she reaches operating temperature, which really is best if you take it for a little drive, take some water with you for God's sake, in case something disastrous happens. Take it for a little test drive to get it to operating temperature, otherwise you're sitting here idling for 10-15 minutes or something. And then check your water level again. It's probably gone down just because it's of settling. Top it back up again, and then proceed from there. Okay, so before we start it, first thing you want to do is check all through here. Make sure you haven't left any tools, rags, anything, your keys or something like that. Make sure it's all clear, because it's happened before where people have left tools here and it goes shooting out like a projectile, and you don't want that. Alright, so before we start it, just check your engine compartment, make sure you've left no tools in dangerous way. Cool. And put the cap on as well. Beauty. So we've just taken her for a test drive to check. Sure enough, the water level did go down a bit. You can see it down. So we know it started up there, now it's down to here. So the top hose is hot, so we know the thermostat's opened. It's refilled, so I'm just going to top that back up. There's no evidence of leaks at all. But check where we are. Maroubra Beach. What a beautiful day. Conditions are awesome. Awesome surf. Good day to be alive. Alright, so I'm going to top her up and then we'll drive back and check again. Okay, the last thing you need to do, of course, is put back the plastic thing. Yep. The electrical harness tubing, which is this black plastic one, goes along the bottom with the bigger clips. Once that's in all the way along, you plug in their little rubber hoses that go along the top part. Okay, that back into there, the two bolts, the Torx bolts, and yeah, tighten it up and she's done. All right. Good luck. Thanks for listening. Cheers.